Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Oxford Plains Speedway for the first annual NorthWest Oxford 200 here on 3Y TV for the NorthWest Tour, folks. This is their fourth round of this season, and we've already seen some spectacular races at USA, Sobo, and Rockingham just a couple of weeks ago. And we're looking at another spectacular show here tonight. As always, we're going to lead off with the B-Main here. We do have quite a few drivers in this B-Main here tonight. In fact, 17 drivers will be taking part to try and get their way into the top six to move on to the A-Main. And we have some pretty heavy hitters in this field, so it should be a very, very good race. And of course, Oxford Plains is not an easy racetrack to pass at, so this will be quite entertaining from the drivers and the spectators' perspective. So welcome to 3Y TV. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight is Greg Rentz, and of course, Carlos Acosta will be manning the cameras back behind the scenes. But Greg, it's a very, very interesting racetrack. These drivers will be turning left quite a bit here tonight, and we really will see these drivers just continue to go around this racetrack, turning left, trying to get underneath these other drivers. And it's going to be very, very difficult to get around these other cars. Greg, what's your thoughts about Oxford Plains?
This is one of the most historic racetracks in the country and home of one of the crown jewels of late model racing. So this is the beginning of a new tradition for the Northwest, as we're getting set to do our own version of the Oxford 250. We're going 200 in the A-Main tonight, but we're starting a new tradition with the Northwest Tour, our own version of one of the crown jewels of late model racing. It all starts tonight, and I cannot wait to cross Oxford off the list of tracks that the Tour hits coming up here in just a second.
And of course, we will have this E-Main. It is 75 laps around this racetrack, and Pace Car has gone down pit road. The race is in the hands of Jason Templeton in that number 39 machine, and he will lead them to the start. And you can see that inside groove. I'm sure we'll see this quite a bit here tonight, Greg, but that inside groove has a pretty big advantage here at this racetrack, and Shane Quinn took advantage of it, moves up into the second position, slides Josh Robinson back to third, Casey Tillman running in fourth, Joshua Beal in fifth, and what about Ellie Musgrave already up into the sixth position?
Templeton out to a good run, and we were so impressed with what Templeton was able to do near the end of that B-Main at Rockingham 2 weeks ago, when he came seemingly out of nowhere and finished, I believe he finished up in the top three, and as he was up contending for the lead, and made some noise in the main event too, looking to carry that momentum as one car getting all kinds of squirrely going into turn number 3. That was fourth place Casey Tillman in the 92, hitting the infield there a little bit that time by Peter.
Yeah, without a doubt. And we do have some heavy hitters in this race. Sean Breitzman in the number 46 machine back in the 11th position. He's slowly but surely trying to work his way forward as, ooh man, there's Chris Meringue in the Aaron's Dream machine, getting a little bit out of shape here, right on board now with Breitzman as he goes underneath the number 17 of Brent Holloway there, coming out of turn number 2. Really good run up off the corner for that 46 machine, and he is trying to make this move, unable to do so just yet. Brent Holloway holding tough there on the outside, but I think Breitzman here just has to be a little bit patient, and he will complete that pass. But up at the front, the 39 machine's pulled away just a little bit, but we see right here Josh Robinson. We're looking back at the front bumper of the number 92 machine of Casey Tillman. That is a very good battle for the third position right now.
And they are going around the slower car. Brian Payne was coming to nearly a stop there, but a good battle right here for the third spot. Oh, we got contact with one car around. That is the 777 Dylan Kane going around off of turn number 4.
Yeah, I think there was contact there with Holloway in the 17 machine. We'll go back and see this on the 3Y TV replay. There's the 77. You see he was getting passed by Sean Breitzman, and I think he thought he was cleared and might have came down the racetrack at the same time that the number 17 was coming up the racetrack, and it was just kind of two cars in the same place at the same time. We'll have to see which one of these drivers taps on this one. Of course, the Northwest Tour using a tap rule. If you tap twice in a single race, you will be disqualified. You'll receive a black flag. So Not really sure which one that was on. It's kind of two cars coming together at the same time. Unfortunate for the 777, he got the bad end of that stick.
So it's Templeton leading the way with Shane Quinn, Josh Robinson, Casey Tillman, and Josh Beal rounding out the top 5. And how about Ellie Musgrave up in the 6th spot right now? Good run for her to start off this weekend.
Yeah, without a doubt. Good so far, up there now in the 6th position. That's where you want to be if you want to transfer into the A main based off of pace. And you and I know that 6 drivers transfer over on pace, but 2 drivers transfer in based on provisional. And I think this might actually be the last round where we go to last year's points. And after tonight's race, it will be based off of this year's point standings. And it is the highest 2 drivers in points from last year, at least for this week, get automatically moved over to the main if they didn't already qualify through this B main or earlier on. We did have a qualifying session. 16 drivers already locked themselves into the A main with a qualifying session that wrapped up here about 20 minutes ago. But these are all the drivers who are in the B main trying to fight their way into that A main, but pace car lights are still on out there.
Looking like it's possibly going to be a single file restart for this B main at Oxford. 12 laps in the books. Now 13 as they cross the strike in this B main. Jason Templeton has led all 13 of them. But Shane Quinn looked strong in that final practice session. Showing some speed in that 4 car. Was able to get up into the 2nd spot. We'll see if he can get up there and contend for the win when we go back green.
Yeah, Shane Quinn was the fastest in practice. Following him was Kyle Franklin and Sean Brightsman, but we're back to green flag action here, and that number 39 on the loud pedal once again. And Templeton getting a little bit high there. There's kind of a inflection in the banking out there, and it looks like Templeton just kind of jumped over that cushion a little bit, but he was able to get the ship righted and get down to the inside
contact
group.
1 car way off track. Believe that was the 112 of Beal. Caution is out. Yes, it was the 112 of Josh Beal. Contact. And he sent him to the back.
That was right around that transfer position. That was around the 5th position. And oh, there's the 23 there, Ellie Musgrave. They made contact there in the center of the corner. And luckily for Beal, he didn't make any contact with the outside wall. Of course, you can see that the wall's a long way away here at Oxford Plains. But we'll see this from high above and see if we can see exactly what happened here. 23 on the inside line and didn't really wash up too much. And the 112 machine there, just a little bit of contact, and that's really just Oxford Plains for you, ladies and gentlemen, because this racetrack is a very, very tight racetrack. It's kind of a bull ring, so to speak, and it leads to contact like that.
And the Northwest Tour, as the year goes on, we're going to see more and more races like this when we go to these style of racetracks. But this is a track that the drivers voted on when it was opened up to them for discussion. They said, hey, what tracks do you guys want to go to that we were not going to already? This was one of them that the drivers said they wanted to race Oxford. And this is why, because of the tight quarter-to-quarter racing that we see at this racetrack. But you know, obviously, it's going to result in stuff like that. Contact while racing right around the transfer spot is going to happen at this racetrack. So this is what the drivers wanted, and it's what the fans are going to get, and it's going to be a heck of a show for the rest of this night. 200 laps the distance in the main event tonight.
Yeah, it does not look like we see anyone tapping for that accident, so not quite sure who the blame is going to fall on there, but nonetheless, it does. Oh, as I say, that does look like Ellie Musgrave will pull over to the side, and that number 23 machine is going to drop to the back. So you see all the cars passing Ellie right down there on the inside groove. And so that number 23 will have a lot of work to do to get back into the transfer position. But let's update those transfer positions because they have changed. Currently, Chris Morang is running 5th, and Kyle Franklin in the number 11 Jegs.com machine has worked his way up into 6th. And of course, we got to mention Joe's Racing Products because they are one of the sponsors here in the Northwest Tour. It's really the Northwest Tour brought to you by the Joe's Racing products. Go check them out for all of your racing needs, as well as we got a couple of sponsors up there in the top left of the screen. Go check them out as well as they continue to scroll through. And in fact, you can see Joe's there on the logo. So pretty cool, but pace car is off once again, and the number 39 machine is off and away once more. Jason Templeton leading this race. Shane Quinn sitting in second. Josh Robinson third. Casey Tillman, Chris Moraine, Kyle Franklin, your 6 transfer drivers. Just on the outside looking in is Sean Breitzman in the number 46 machine. Remember, we highlighted him being quick in practice. He was third fastest in practice and just needs one more spot to get his way into those transfer positions. Brent Holloway is currently running in 8th. Thomas O'Hara 9th, and Christopher Heim in 10th, but pretty much single file here early in this run, Greg, and I think some of these drivers up near the front might be just starting to think, hey, I just need to calm down, get through these laps, because laps tick down very, very quickly here at Oxford Plains, and just kind of ride and see if I can get to the A-main that way.
Especially Sean Breitzman, and going back to Breitzman for just a moment, he picked up a big win earlier this week in another Northwest-based series, the Northwest Xfinity Series, deep in their playoff run right now. Breitzman picked up a win earlier this week to transfer into the round of 8, I believe they are at now. So Breitzman actually almost swept the first round of that series. It's 4 races for that first round. He won 3 of them. So Breitzman has been on a tear in the Northwest Xfinity Series as of late. We're going to see if he can transfer that over and pick up some momentum tonight here at Oxford. He does have 1 career victory that came at Richmond last year.
You know, I'll tell you what, it's a very difficult racetrack to pass at. You can kind of see it's kind of follow the leader here. But that is kind of an interesting thing from the driver's perspective, because you have to start playing a game of chess with the other race cars around you has to be able to make a pass, and I think we're starting to see Sean Breitzman just kind of changing up his line a little bit to see if he can get around that number 11 machine.
As you see them starting to fan out a little bit, also in front of them, 47 of Robinson and 92 of Tillman. Casey Tillman was taking a peek to the outside a moment ago in that red 92 car. He's taking a little bit of a higher groove than the 47 on exit. We'll see if he does it the same here. Yeah, you see it right there, just a little bit higher off of the corners. He's done it the last couple times. It almost cost him as he broke loose in turn number 3, and that allowed Chris Morang and the Aaron's Dream Machine this week to pull up. New look for Chris Morang, but that battle for third really beginning to heat up, and that is allowing Morang, Franklin, and Breitzman to close in, and this is going to be a 5-car battle before too long.
It is really interesting to see what Casey Tillman is doing, and he's doing kind of what I was saying you need to do. You're kind of playing a chess game and change up your lines to see if you can get a good run coming out of the corner and whatnot. But at least for Casey Tillman, as the number 47 machine, Josh Robinson, goes up the racetrack. But we have a caution. There's a car around, 2 cars around on the front stretch. Joshua Beal and the 777 of Dylan Kane are both off the racetrack right now. We'll go back and see what happened here. Ooh, man, I don't know what happened there. There might have been a little bit of contact with the number 23 machine. But let's see if we can go back once again. Here we go. There's the 777 of Dylan Kane. And we got Ellie Musgrave right behind Dylan. Ooh, that 777 got way loose and no contact there. And no contact with Ellie Musgrave, but lots of contact with Joshua Beal. And that number 112 machine will find himself 1 lap down, as is Dylan Kane. They're still out there on the racetrack, but those cars they seem to have a lot of damage on those race cars. Go on board with the 777 there. Dylan Kane, and you see that back end break loose, and it's really hard as a race car driver to save that car once it breaks out and it just gets away from you there. And that's exactly what happened. But unfortunately for Dylan Kane, that is his second caution flag of the night, so that will be a second tap, and because of that, he will be disqualified from the race. Will go no further. So Dylan Kane will be our second disqualification of the night. And Joshua Beal will find himself in the 112, 1 lap down. But we have 41 laps to go here. And Greg, these drivers are not allowed to take tires here in the Northwest Tour. So it makes things very, very slippery. But what are you thinking about that top 6? Do you think they're safe, or do you think they're going to get racy here towards the end?
I, honestly, the way this race was going for the opening stages, I think the only two that I would feel comfortable with would be the front two of Templeton and Quinn, because before that yellow came out, from Robinson all the way back to Brightsman, who is out of the transfer spot right now, they were getting racy with each other. So honestly, the only two that I feel very comfortable with are the 39 and the 4. 47 on back, you're going to need to keep your eyes on them because if something happens, they could get freight trained really quick, and especially at a track like this. And I was honestly curious as to Tillman running the high line because typically here the out or the inside lane seems to be the preferred lane, but Tillman was trying to use the outside to get a run on Robinson. So I'm kind of curious what his strategy was there.
Yeah, I think he was trying to carry apex speed and possibly have a late apex to get the power down. You know, with these tires wearing out, because they're not allowed to change tires here in this league, probably we'll start to see a couple drivers start to struggle with those rear tires. And taking that late apex straightens up the corner, and I think that's what Tillman was going for. But nonetheless, we'll see how it works for him here because we're back to green flag action. And the number 39, Jason Templeton, will be down there on the inside roof. Shane Quinn in the 4 right behind him in the Quinn's property management machine. And once again, those two kind of scoot away from Josh Robinson just a little bit, but the battle between the 11 machine of Kyle Franklin and Sean Brightsman is still red hot here after the green flag was waved, and we're now halfway in this B main, so Sean Brightsman will have to start thinking about trying to make a move on Kyle Franklin, but this is a very difficult racetrack to pass at, and also a very difficult racetrack to put a bump and run on someone, just because of the fact that your race car is so loaded at all times. I mean, you can see these drivers are basically almost turning in a circle. You never really have the wheel straight as Sean Brightsman gets a little bit sideways coming out of the corner. He's able to woe it up. The number 11, Kyle Franklin, goes up the racetrack a little bit. Didn't open the door enough for Brightsman. Very, very interesting battle here, and this is the game of cat and mouse that they're playing.
Speaking of battle, Shane Quinn has made the battle up at the front as he was peaking low on Templeton a couple times there the last couple of laps, and now he's followed in about a car length off of Templeton as Franklin has lost touch with Narang, but Shane Quinn is really beginning to put pressure on Jason Templeton. He's thinking about maybe making a move for the win here when it gets down to crunch time. I think give it about 15-20 more laps, we'll see Quinn really start putting pressure on the 39 car.
Well, we almost saw another caution. Sean Brightsman and the number 11 of Kyle Franklin made contact just a few laps ago coming out of turn number 2. It really broke that number 11 car loose. He was able to save it. Good heads-up move by Sean Brightsman to kind of just back off the throttle and allow the number 11 machine to save that race car. But Sean Brightsman really looking to get that position, but at least for now there's a little bit of a gap between those two. Looking back a little bit further, there is Ellie Musgrave trying to get around the 76 machine of Eric Cheney. This is a battle for the 12th position currently. Brad Carpenter in the 31 has scooted away in front of them. Really, the best battle on the racetrack is still the battle for 6th, as also there's a pretty good battle for 3rd, but Casey Tillman trying to use his unique strategy to get around the 47 is starting to pay off for him. I'm starting to see that number 92 make really good runs coming out of the corner, but at least for now, the number 92 stays locked in the 4th position.
Now he's beginning to peak a little bit lower on the exit is Tillman in the 92, so I'm wondering if he realized, hey, he wasn't making much progress on the outside, and as I say that, he peaks high, but then peaks back low. So I'm wondering now, is he more looking for possibly a chance for a crossover move if he can get up there by getting a run on the outside and then dive bombing the 47? Is that what he's trying to do?
Yeah, that could be very possible, and even Sean Brightsman, he's another one of those drivers starting to use that high line to see if he can find something up there. He's unable to get around the number 11 of Kyle Franklin for now, but Brightsman pretty much solidly running the high line until about 3/4 of the way through the corners, where he just kind of dives down to the bottom. But Sean Brightsman now to the right rear quarter panel of the number 11 machine, starting to find some pace in the 46.
Brightsman putting the pressure on Franklin, but Shane Quinn up front has caught up to Templeton, and he is putting the pressure on now as we have a battle for the lead beginning to shape up as Quinn is peaking low on Templeton in the middle of the corners. You see him go high, and it looks like he's trying that same method that Tillman was trying, kind of high entry and then kind of dive bomb in the center towards the exit of the corner to see if he can hold on as we see more battles here deep in the field.
23 laps to go in this main. Laps are winding down very, very quickly. We have this side-by-side battle with the 75 machine of Thomas O'Hara and Brent Holloway. And a caution flag's come out. It's Josh Robinson and the 92 machine who have got together. Casey Tillman in the 92 and Josh Robinson in the 47 had that coming together. And looks like it quickly brought out the yellow. Let's see what happened here on the replay, Greg.
Just racing for the same piece of real estate, and Tillman decided, hey, this is my shot. This is the best shot I've got. Got in, and Robinson shut the door, but Tillman was already in. They come together, and now third and fourth in the running now have had issues, and Tillman has taken the EOL penalty, so he is dropping to the back. But how much is that going to affect both cars? Robinson might be okay, but I don't see Tillman being able to make a whole lot more of a run now with the damage on the front of that car.
Yeah, Tillman has quite a bit of damage, and also is going to be buried in the field. You can see he's taken that EOL penalty for tapping out, and you know, that's really unfortunate. It's so difficult to pass here. He saw a slight opportunity to try and make that move, and unfortunately made that contact and has taken the blame for it. So that race car, that 92, will find himself at 14th for this restart. That is absolutely dreadful position here for this next restart. Joshua Beal will get the lucky dog and will move back onto the lead lap. We'll have 15 cars on the lead lap when we go back to green flag action here in just a few laps, but 20 laps to go here. And now Sean Brightsman finds himself in the 6th position, so he doesn't have to race Kyle Franklin as hard as he was. In fact, he moved up into the 5th position because Robinson, when he had that collision and went sliding through the infield, he slid back into 6th. So now Josh Robinson in the 47 machine is your bubble driver. Christopher Hine, the first car outside looking in, and I've been keeping an eye on that number 51 machine because he made some good moves. He made a good pass on Brent Holloway to take what was then the 8th position. Now he's up to 7th, so we'll see what Christopher Hine can do here because we only have, you know, not too many laps left once we go back to green, but pace car lights stay on at least for now.
And that goes back to what we talked about, Peter, with that transfer spot, because we had talked about it earlier. Robinson was up in the 3rd spot, but I had mentioned I did not feel comfortable with the amount of racing. No, we're going back green, so I'll have to finish that thought later. As we're back green, Templeton gets out to the lead, and he gets a good jump on Shane Quinn that time. I think that is the biggest margin on a restart that Templeton has had all day. That's the best restart of the day by Templeton.
Yeah, I caught the pace car at a wrong spot. I thought the lights were still on, but nonetheless, we are back to green flag action, and very, very good battle still between Sean Brightsman and Kyle Franklin, because that number 46 machine is all over the back bumper. And now Kyle Franklin all over the back bumper of Chris Meringue. Meringue in that 3rd position now, and it's still Josh Robinson in the 6th position, but he's coming under fire from Christopher Heim, and now Christopher Heim's going to try and get that spot, unable to do so just yet. So be interesting battle to see who transfers, as we only have 15 laps to go now in this B-main.
So Heim putting the pressure on Robinson, and going back to what I was saying before the restart, that contact with Tillman, not only did that damage Robinson's car a little bit, dropped him back to the bubble spot. So he went from 3rd and pretty much having to just hold on for a few more laps and he would be relatively safe, to now he's on the bubble and he's got to race his tail off, because now he's got a fresh Christopher Heim coming in a hurry behind him. But he's got to like what he sees in front of him with Brightsman still going after Franklin, because that's going to allow Robinson to just focus on what he's doing, not worry about the others, and he can catch up to him real quick. But the question is, how much damage did that 47 suffer in that incident?
Yeah, it'll be very, very interesting, but he is still in the 6th position, at least for now. He will transfer over to the A-main as things run now with 11 laps to go. Every restart we've had here tonight has been single file, and he's kind of led to some single file racing out there on the racetrack. Pretty much the whole field is single file except for Casey Tillman and Eric Cheney near the back of the field. And Tillman's going to move up into the 13th position after a little bit of argy-bargy racing with Eric Cheney. They kind of bounced off one another, but that number 92 will now slot into 13th. Don't think there will be anywhere near enough time for him to get 7 more positions to get up into 6th. But very interesting to see that 51 machine, Christopher Heim, still trying to run down Josh Robinson. Robinson's actually fallen off a little bit off the back of Sean Breitzman, but Christopher Heim in the 51 unable to do anything just yet with the 47 machine.
Meanwhile, up front, Templeton has maintained that gap over Shane Quinn, so no real contest up front right now. Is Templeton, who impressed us in that B-main at Rockingham 2 weeks ago, the most recent outing, having another impressive B-main tonight by going wire to wire thus far, and with just a handful of laps remaining, Templeton looking very strong. But now we see the 4 of Quinn beginning to reel him in again. Quinn may have been saving it for one final charge at the end to see if he can leapfrog and get that B-main victory.
Yeah, last time by Shane Quinn was about 0.2 of a second faster than Jason Templeton, so that number 4 definitely has some pace. Of course, all he has to do is finish second to transfer over to the A-main. Of course, that might be in the back of his mind as we only have 5 laps to go, but this time by Shane Quinn, only about 0.03 of a second faster than that number 39, so kind of leveled out. As the number 4 machine got really sideways there. You saw him hit that curb on the inside of the racetrack and was able to straighten up that race car, so good save there by Shane Quinn. But let's go back and let's watch this battle for the transfer position as we only have 4 laps to go. Christopher Heim still trying to track down the number 47 of Josh Robinson, but unable to do so as of right now. Robinson running some very respectable lap times, not too far off your leader's times actually, and that is allowing him to stay in front of Heim. So don't really foresee much changing up near the front. We might already see our top 6, but anything can change.
Closing stages of this one, sorry Peter, and battle is for the transfer spot as Heim is putting pressure on Robinson. This is the best. That was the best run Heim got all day, but he washed up the track going into turn 4, and that could have cost him as we are down. Oh, we got problems up in turn number 4. One car went around. I believe it was the 75. He is up on the sand barrel, but we stay green for the time being. This should be it. Templeton's going to hang on to win second. There's the battle for the transfer spot. Robinson holds on, but interesting finish to this one, Peter, with the 75 of O'Hara.
Yeah, so Templeton, Quinn, Meringue, Franklin, Breitzman, and Robinson all transfer over into the A-main based off of their finishes. 2 more drivers will transfer over based off of last season points. But let's see if we can go back and see what happened to Thomas O'Hara in the number 25 machine. He is going to be scored with a 15th place finish here tonight. There he is in the number 75. And okay, so he's got the number 23, Ellie Musgrave, right behind him. And the 23 came down the racetrack, tried to show a nose to that 75 machine, and unfortunately O'Hara tried to do a monster jam over that big mound, but wasn't able to do so. Almost reversed up into your race leaders. Wouldn't that have been crazy? I see a couple of other cars going around stricken number 75, but yeah, monster jamming those big mounds usually doesn't turn out all too well, but unfortunately that was not of the 75's doing after a little bit of contact with the number 23 machine. But don't think either of those drivers will go on into the A-main unless they're able to, or at least they won't go into the A-main unless they can transfer over based off of last year's points.
So that wraps it up for the B-main, as Templeton picks up the B-main victory tonight here at Oxford and transfers into the 200-lap main event. As we take a look now at the results, sorry. We see Jason Templeton with win, Shane Quinn second, Chris Meringue rounds out the B-main podium, Kyle Franklin, Sean Breitzman, and Josh Robinson are the 6 transfer in based on track position here. Christopher Heim, Brent Holloway, Ellie Musgrove, Adam Halm round out the top 10.
Let's see if we can talk to some of these drivers who got in the finish. But let's see if we can go through the 11th through 17th here. Brad Carpenter 11th, Eric Cheney 12th, Casey Tillman 13th, Joshua Beal 14th, Thomas O'Hara 15th, Dylan Kane 16th, and Brian Payne rounds out your 17 cars here in the B main. But we do have a couple of interviews lined up for you. Let's see if we can. Let's see who else we can get in here. Let's see if we can dial up the 00 machine of Chris Meringue real fast. Finish this here. Chris Meringue, Peter Short here in the 3 wide TV booth. You got a copy? Chris Meringue, Peter Short here in the 3 wide TV booth. Copy? All right. Well, guess he doesn't have a copy, so we'll let him get back to his team. And let's see if we can dial up someone else. Greg, how about an interview with Kyle Franklin, number 11 machine?
Kyle Franklin, Greg Rent's 3 wide TV. Do you have a copy?
I copy that.
Hey Kyle, congratulations. You transferred into the A main in a great battle with Sean Brightsman for pretty much the entirety of that race. Just walk us through that, because that was pretty fun to watch, you and Sean going back and forth.
Well, I was just sitting there saving tires, and you're just waiting that they said top 7, so I was just kind of hanging back and trying not to mow down the person in front of me, because it's real tricky, because you get into these corners a little bit different than the other person. You get runs on them pretty good, either going in or coming out. So I just try to keep them behind me, and if he wanted to pass, I'll let him pass high if he had it, but I don't think you can in this track, so you got to get under them.
All right, well, Kyle, you got yourself into the A main, 200 laps the distance, and what lessons that you've learned in the B main are you going to apply to that A main going into this one?
I think it'll be tire conference, saving tires. So I got pretty slick there, even with just that short race. So I'm excited to see, just to try to stay out of all the stuff. We have a couple of side-by-side restarts, and then we go single file after that. So I think that's where I'm going to pick up most of my stuff, or anybody will, is those double files, because whoever's on the outside is going to get pretty freight trained. So patience.
All right, Kyle, we're going to let you get ready for the A main, but first, we know you got some guys you want to give a shout out to. So who are they? Who helped you get to this A main tonight?
Oh man, I like to shout out to my local boys over here, Hermiston Raceway, and I grew up at Tri-City Raceway, and it's no longer there. But I like to shout out for the people that put this on. Everybody that's supporting this league. It's pretty amazing. Jags. Oh man, there's just so many. Sorry.
All right, well, we'll let you get ready to go to the A main. Kyle Franklin transfers into the A main. Good luck the rest of the way.
Hey, thank you.
And Peter, I think you have caught up with second place, Shane Quinn. Go ahead, Peter.
That I have. Shane Quinn, good run out there. You definitely look like you had a very, very good race car. Definitely at the end of the race, you were able to close in on Jason just a little bit. But how was that number 4 driving for you?
You got to be light on your toes. And, yeah, tires are just, you get them so hot so quick. And, so you just got to be on your toes, take it easy. I was basically just practicing tire management.
Yeah, well, we pretty much heard the same thing from Kyle as well, that the tires are going to be a very important thing here tonight, especially in a 200-lap race without being able to change tires. What's your thought about racing at this racetrack? I mean, you're pretty much turning left the whole way around this racetrack. Very, very difficult to pass. How are you going to take what you've learned from this B main into the A main?
Yeah, this track really threw me off when I first ran on it, because you don't even get up to full speed, or it feels like that at least. And I don't know, I'm just going to take it easy, and honestly, over slowing down might be your friend.
Very, very interesting to hear that. But before we let you go, you got some shout outs for us?
Yeah, Cascade Wrestling, it's pretty cool. I just appreciate everybody for putting this on. Having a good time doing it. I think everybody else is too. And thanks for doing the broadcast. You guys do really good.
Awesome to hear that. Well, best of luck in the A main. We'll be looking to see that number 4 work your way from the back here in just a little bit.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Well, I believe, Greg, I think you've caught up with our winner from this B main, Jason Templeton.
And I have Jason Templeton, Greg Rents, 3YTV. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Hey, Jason, a very, very good run there. You led every single lap in that B main, and you had some pressure from Shane Quinn as the race proceeded on, but man, that 39 car looked very, very solid, especially on those restarts. That seemed to be when the 39 was at its peak, was in the first few laps of that run.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty fast. I was running hard that race, just trying to stay up front and stay on the bottom of the track. So we'll see how A main goes, but I'm not sure if Shane was saving tires or not behind me, but I was running pretty hard.
Well, Jason, another impressive B main performance, as you really turned a lot of heads in the B main 2 weeks ago at Rockingham, and then you followed up by leading wire to wire here at Oxford. So that's got to make you feel good, though, to know that you're able to build so much momentum going into that A main by just having stout runs in the B main back-to-back races here.
Yeah, it definitely helps the B main. You get some practice with the tire wear, and you get some practice on restarts, and it's beneficial that way. But there's just so much competition in this league that just even qualifying for A main is an accomplishment all on its own.
All right, Jason. Well, we are going to let you get ready for this 200-lap A main event. But before we do, who you want to give a shout-out to? Because we know you got some people on that car. Do you want to help or let you know who, or let them know, sorry, that they are appreciated?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to give a shout-out to my family. My wife's watching my 2 kids. They're both under the age of 2, and she watches them every Sunday, so I can hide out and race with the big boys every Sunday. So just want to give her a shout out, and also the rest of my family that's watching on YouTube.
All right, that's your B main winner, Jason Templeton, ready to go and try to sweep the night here at Oxford. We'll let him go get ready. Jason, congratulations. We'll see you out there.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Well, Greg, some interesting things, said amongst all the drivers. The main one being tire wear. And of course, these drivers, 200 laps in the A main on 1 pair of tires.
And we saw that last race out in Rockingham. That came into play, especially with the track temp being as high as it was. I didn't get a chance to look at what the track temp was in that B main, so we'll have to take a peek before this 200-lap race starts as to what the track temp is, because that played a huge role in both the twin main events at Rockingham with that super high track temperature we had. I'm curious if it's a similar situation this week, because that just proved just how key tire conservation is in this series.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Rockingham, one of those racetracks that is known for high tire wear, but I'm expecting to see a lot of rear tire wear in this A main across the 200 laps, but we will have a pretty much a completely different field, of course, with 8 drivers from the B main transferring over, 6 based off of the finish and 2 based off of last year's points, the 2 provisionals that are handed out. But the rest of the 16 drivers in tonight's A main were not in that B main, so we will have to highlight those drivers here in just a little bit, but it should be a very, very good show here, and not a fairly lengthy race. This is a short race just because of how quick these laps go down.
All right, so we are going to take a little bit of a break to get set for this 200-lap main event, because I lost my mic for a second, but we are going to take a little bit of a break before this 200-lap main event, because we are just as excited as you guys are. So hang tight. We'll be back in just a couple of moments, and hopefully when we do come back, we'll be getting set for a 200-lap main event at Oxford coming your way on 3YTV.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Oxford Plains as we transition over into the A main here for tonight. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, we had the Hermiston Raceway Twin 75s at the Rock. We had 41 drivers that elected to try and qualify for that race, and ultimately only 24 started the A main. It was a very exciting end to that B main, a little bit similar to what we saw tonight, but a little bit more exciting last week as there was a side-by-side finish. And once we got over into the A main, it was an absolute spectacular race. We've already alluded to this point a couple times here tonight, Greg, just how much tire wear there was last week. Track temperature up above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Luckily, it's only about 120 here tonight, so probably not as much tire wear as we saw last week at Rockingham, but very, very good race because, you know, we had a fantastic finish. Caden Anderson ultimately came away with the most points last week. Ryan Gormley, second most points. Garrett Huffines, Bart Hector Jr., and Jason Templeton. Basically, your top 5 point scorers from the last event, which was 2 weeks ago. But should be a very, very good race again here tonight, Greg.
I'm excited for this 200-lap main event. We take a look at the points. You see it right there. Caden Anderson leading the charge right now with 2 wins on the season. He won at South Boston earlier this year and followed it up with a win at Rockingham. Ryan Gormley in second. Travis Barnes having a great rookie season and the number 8. He's up in the 3rd spot. Bart Hector Jr. and Seth Frazier rounding out the top 5, Peter.
Yeah, very, very interesting to see Seth Frazier up there in the top 5. Garrett Huffines, Casey Tillman tied for 6. BJ Tidrick, Shane Quinn, and Jason Templeton back there. Also inside the top 10, we saw Shane Quinn and Templeton transfer over from the A main. We'll have to see. Casey Tillman has transferred over into this A main as well in the number 92 machine. I believe that is based off of last year's points. So we'll see him come from the back of the pack. But Garrett Huffine solidly in this race. Seth Frazier, Bart Hector Jr., Travis Barnes, Ryan Gormley, and Caden Anderson also out there on the racetrack. So pretty much everyone that you see on the screen has qualified for this A main here tonight, which will definitely be a fantastic show.
And I'm excited to see how this goes through this 200-lap main event because I truly think that this is going to be a race of comers and goers. We're going to see really start making progress early, but I think we're going to see guys fall back more and more as the race goes on and then jump back into it as the race goes on. So I'm curious to see who can time their runs correctly here and move into position to be up in contention for the win by the end of it.
Absolutely. Do want to apologize for a little bit of issues on the graphical sides of things. That number 46 is up there. That's, of course, Sean Brightsman currently in the 15th position, but not 100% sure why that's not showing up. Getting word that we might be able to fix that, so hopefully we can here in just a brief moment. But Greg, should be a good show, and currently in practice, it's Nick Bellamy in the number 20 machine leading the way. Travis Barnes second fastest. Garrett Huffines third fastest. Casey Garber and Bart Hector also up there at the top. But some very, very tight times at the top. Only 5/1000ths of a second separating your front two.
So it's going to be a very fun race with this practice session being as tight as it is right now. So it'll be curious to see how this race responds. Remember, we invert 16 cars to start this race, and fast time, I believe, was the 82 of Bart Hector Jr., so he will be starting in the 16th position, trying to make his way forward in that 82 car. So it'll be interesting to see how he can respond to how this race is going to go.
Yeah, and also remember that the top 3 finishes from the last race actually start this race with an EOL penalty. So they will start this race from the end of the field. So it'll be interesting to see them charge up through the field as well. So a couple of storylines here before this race has even started. But you can see that field going around the racetrack right there, led by BJ Tidrick in the number 72, kind of leading a group of cars out there, and that Rustic Moon Ford Fusion Super Late. pretty cool to see. You'll see that 72 coming to screen here right in about a second. There he goes, and quite a few cars behind him trying to find some pace around this racetrack. There's an interesting feature about Oxford Plains, Greg, and that's a very curvy and windy pit lane.
And we saw a little bit of it at the end of the B main that cars could just shoot straight off the racing surface, even on the front stretch, directly onto pit road. We were watching a replay, but I saw a couple of guys shoot down directly from the racing surface onto pit road. So I'm wondering if a car gets caught on pit road and if another car spins off of turn 4, can they catch them on pit road, and could that end someone's night while they're just sitting on pit road trying to get repairs done? Could that possibly be a night ender for someone?
Yeah, and I mean, we also saw it out of Thomas O'Hara in the number 75 machine, that he got stuck on those mounds that surround all of the light poles. And that is something that can very much happen here. You can hit those mounds, even if it happen on the backstretch, if you get spun out or something, you can hit those big mounds and end up flipping and flying. I've seen it happen before. It was pretty comical back in the day when you had the Legends cars running around here, because those things would fly like no other and end up tumbling for days almost across the racetrack. But I've seen it happen here in the iRacing service where cars just kind of jump over those hills, and that can very much end somebody's day. So we'll have to keep an eye on whether or not that comes into play here as we are quickly rounding up practice, and the admins here will transfer over to the A main before the practice session is done, so don't think that we have exactly 16 minutes left to go. But do want to give a shout out to some of our chatters right now. One of those people in the chat, Kathy Rose, Jeff Schmidt, Chrissy Reed, Legendary Gamer, and Mitch Brown. Want to give a shout out to you guys. Make sure you're commenting and getting involved in the chat, and of course, we will be making note of you guys and trying to communicate with you. If you got any questions, just fire us a question. We will be glad to answer it if we can. But we are seeing Travis Barnes in the number 8 machine go exploring around this racetrack. Just worked his way into that curvy and windy pit lane, and didn't get a good entry into it. Looks like that could be very difficult if you're one of those drivers who has to pit in the windy pit lane. Of course, the first few starters of tonight's race will be on the front stretch, but then there is the windy pit lane for basically the back half of the field, and that looks like it could be pretty treacherous here tonight, especially if you have to come fix damage. Of course, these drivers unable to change tires. We've highlighted that a couple times here tonight, Craig, but you are allowed to repair your race car if you get some damage.
That is what you are allowed to do. What you are not allowed to do is take tires. And we saw that last week. We had a driver take tires mid-race. So that driver will be starting with 1X. We talked about it in the B main, how you're allowed 2 tap-out rules. Casey Garber, the 96, is on probation for a tire change in the middle of that race. So keep that in mind. The way it works for probation is you start with 1 already. So Casey will only be allowed 1 tap out for this main event. So keep that in mind as the 96 is on probation.
Yeah, Casey Garber currently in the top 5 in practice time. So that's pretty interesting to see that. If he is the root cause of any accident here tonight, he will be disqualified, even if it's just a minor accident. So I'm sure that will be on his mind here tonight. But once again, it is still Nick Bellamy and Travis Barnes, your top 2. Garrett Huffines in 3rd. Caden Anderson in 4th, your points leader. Garber 5th. Bart Hector Jr. 6th. Seth Frazier 7th. Ryan Gormley, Dylan Huffines, and Travis McKinney round out your top 10 currently, Greg. But pretty much all these practice times don't really mean anything because you've already qualified out there. You're going to know where you're going to start this race. If you qualified in first, we have the top 16 get inverted. So the first place qualifier will start 16th, second place qualifier will start 15th, so on and so forth. And then positions 17th through 20 22nd, that will be where your top 6 from the B main start, and then 23rd and 24th are reserved for the 2 provisional drivers, with the exception of the fact that your top 3 finishers from last week have an end of longest line penalty at the start of the race, so they'll actually be starting 22nd through 24th. So it gets a little bit confusing there, kind of hard to keep track of, but once we go to the grid here in just a minute, we will get to see where exactly everyone lines up.
So 200 laps coming up here at Oxford Raceway. And right now at the top of the charts is the 20 of Nick Bellamy. And he was one of the guys who was fastest in practice before qualifying, was that number 20 of Nick Bellamy. Travis Barnes, who's having an outstanding rookie season, 3rd in points right now, right there with Bellamy. Then we have Garrett Huffines, Caden Anderson, who has the most wins on the tour this season, and Casey Garber rounding out the top 5 before quick time Bart Hector Jr. in the 82 sits in 6th. So little bit of an interesting one here, especially that 5th place car, 96, Casey Garber, because he should be starting on the pole, I do believe, as I believe he was the one that timed in 16th in qualifying. So the guy who's starting on the pole is up in the top 5 right now in practice here before this 200 lap main event.
Yeah, based off of what I have seen there, Greg, Casey Garber actually might be starting 2nd, because I think James Polson in the number 80 machine qualified in 16th, but we'll have to confirm that once we get out there on the racetrack. And currently James Polson is finding himself around the 12th position or so. In fact, yes, the 12th position can confirm that number 80 machine. So he will be starting presumably on pole once we do go to green flag here in just a little bit. He's actually out there on the racetrack racing the number 911 machine of Adam Holm, and that's a really good looking race car there, Greg. It's kind of got a emergency responders vibe to it. 911 is the number for Adam, and a very cool looking Pontiac Firebird scheme as well.
And I believe he is the only driver in the Northwest Tour that runs a Pontiac scheme. That 911 of Adam Holm, I believe that is the only Pontiac. It was last year, I think. So unless there's been another Pontiac added, believe that's the only Pontiac in the field. So always fun to see something different. You know, we see a lot of Fords, we see a lot of Chevys, we see a couple Dodges and a couple Toyotas scattered throughout, but we don't really see Pontiacs anymore, especially in late model racing. So it's cool to see a guy like Adam Holm running the Pontiac scheme in the Northwest.
Yeah, of course, Pontiac not making cars anymore, so that is kind of a throwback. There is Adam Holm in that 911 machine. He is doing battle right here in practice with Travis Barnes, currently 2nd atop the board in that number 8 machine. Like you said, as a rookie to the Northwest Tour, and is doing a fantastic job here in his opening season. They're just getting the curb just a smidgen, but looks like he's going to clear Adam here coming out of turn number 2. There is a number 4 machine. We talked to him just a little bit ago, Shane Quinn. Unfortunately for him, he's kind of mired down the charts here in practice. Currently being scored in the 15th position in that number 4 machine, so a little bit higher than where he qualified. He qualified in the 18th position. That's why he started 2nd. He qualified in the 19th position earlier on. That's why he started 3rd in the B main. Quickly worked his way up into 2nd. And Shane Quinn currently running 15th, right behind Chris Moraine, Casey Tillman. So a couple of drivers transferring from the B main. Pretty equivalent here on pace here as we still are working in practice. There's the number 7 machine, Dylan Huffines. Of course, him and his brother Garrett out there on the racetrack here for the A main tonight. Garrett Huffines currently 3rd on the board. Dylan sitting 9th on the board currently. So very interesting to see that between them. But nonetheless, Greg, it's setting up to be a very interesting race here tonight.
I'm very excited to see how this race unfolds. 200 laps coming up, and it's a long one. This is one of the longest races of the year lap count wise. believe this ties the longest one we did last year. Our Snowball Derby last year was 200 laps. Of course, this year, that race is going to be 300 laps. But I believe that this, for now, will tie the record for most laps in the Northwest Tour main event here in the iRacing.com Northwest Tour, brought to you by Joe's Racing Products.
Yeah, and you say it's 200 laps. It is only 76 miles because this is a 0.38 mile racetrack. Kind of unique lengths there, but only 76 miles around this joint. So if they can go green here, the race will be done in under an hour. But I expect to see quite a few cautions as I have a little bit of a hiccup there. But nonetheless, the race will be going green pretty shortly. I'm starting to see some of the admins on the mics and a couple of the drivers electing to come down pit road. In fact, there aren't many race cars still out there. Oh my gosh, someone back there doing a barrel roll. Not quite sure who that is, but someone did a barrel roll coming out of turn number 2. And that's what we mentioned a little while ago. It was Trace Thompson in that number 54 machine. Just tried to come down pit road, got in a little bit too hot. And Greggy hit that mound of dirt and flipped that number 54 on its roof.
So fortunately for Trace, it was near the end of practice and it was not in the main event, because that could have got really bad really quick if that was in the actual main event. So Trace Thompson catching a break in that number 54 car, because that could have been bad had that been after the green flag fell for the main event.
At least he knows now not to hit those mounds in the race, because he's seen what type of damage they can do. And we mentioned it just a little while ago that I've seen it happen here before and take people out. But you'll be able to get a fresh car, no damage on that number 54 machine when we do start this race here in just a few minutes. As you can see, we have 6 minutes left on the clock. Don't think we'll run that down, as Seth Frazier actually has just gotten on the radio and says we have 1 minute to race time. So that is getting very, very close here. And Greg, as we get close to the race, you think these drivers got some butterflies in their stomach?
Oh, I'm sure they do. We are going to have such a long race here, and especially the early stages of it. I'm curious to see how they all respond going into this 200 lap main event.
Without a doubt. And you see the racetrack pretty much going silent here. The only car still on the racetrack right now, Nick Me, who will win practice. Unfortunately, there's no prize for winning practice, but that number 80 was atop the board at the end of it. Travis McKinney actually in the 48 machine coming back out there on the racetrack. But it's pretty much going to be all for naught here, because we're about to transition over into race mode. And there is Travis McKinney, came into view there for a brief moment and then disappeared, because it is time to go racing here at Oxford Plains. 200 laps, 76 miles, but 400. Well, I say 400, but really, these drivers are just going to keep turning left the whole time. That wheel will not go straight at all unless you're having to do something different to get around another car or end up in an accident, but those wheels are always cranked here at Oxford.
So they are gridding 200 laps coming up. And Peter, we saw it in the B main. What is going to happen in this one? Drivers that were in the B main said tire conservation is going to be key. And do they have that advantage of knowing that, hey, this is what it's going to be like around lap 75 or so? Do they have an advantage, and do you think they might play the conservation game a little bit more and be able to come on in the second half?
Well, interesting you say that. We kind of saw that last week at Rockingham, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. A couple of those drivers from the B main really had a good showing in the A main because of that extra experience, but nonetheless, those kind of go through tonight's starting lineup. James Paulson will start this race from the first position. Casey Garber to his outside. Row number 2 will be made up of the 20 of Nick Bellamy and Trace Thompson in the 54. Row number 3, Garrett Huffines and Brian Lambert. Row number 4, Dylan Huffines in the number 7 machine, and BJ Tidrick in the 72. Seth Frazier and Ryan Gormley will make up row number 5 there, Greg.
Rolling off in the 11th spot, two-time winner on the year, Caden Anderson in the 37. Brad Morrison, a great qualifying effort for the 26, with Bart Ector Jr. in 13th. Shane Quinn, transferring in from the B main, up in 14th. Chris Morang 15th. Kyle Franklin rounding it out in 16th. The reason some of the guys that qualified up near the top are starting in the back is they were the podium last week at Rockingham. But here we go. James Paulson is bringing him the green flag. We're racing at Oxford.
That number 8, he got a spectacular jump on the field. Casey Garber, also a pretty darn good jump in the 96 machine. He's going to move down to the inside groove and hold on to that second position. Nick Bellamy's going to slide into third, but the side-by-side battle, 3 wide. Trace Thompson goes way up the racetrack, 3 wide there for just a brief moment. He's going to lose a ton of position from 5th back to 12th here. Doesn't look like there was any contact, but the race for position is really currently around the 8th position. Brian Gormley, in fact, Gormley's going to take that 8th position from the number 57. So move Lambert back into 9th. But the field already starting to get single file up near the front. First side-by-side battle is BJ Tidrick in the 72 machine. He's doing battle with the 00 Chris Morang.
A couple of Yakima Speedway guys battling it out right now. BJ from the Tri-Cities, Chris Morang from right there in Yakima. Going back to that 54 of Trace Thompson, I wonder if that flip near the end of practice was kind of weighing in on his mind a little bit going into that, and it kind of rattled him a little bit knowing that that was the last thing that had happened before this main event. Wonder if that was weighing on him at all at the start of that one.
A little bit of contact a little bit further back in the pack. Brad Morrison in the number 26 machine. 3 wide there for a brief moment with Josh Robinson and Jason Templeton. And that little contact kind of pushed him back. So now he finds himself in the 21st position. There's Kyle Franklin. And you see Franklin's well off the back of the field. And in fact, Casey Tillman in the number 92 machine has a significant amount of damage sitting on pit road, and is currently being scored 4 laps down and is taking tires, which is not allowed here in the Northwest Tour. But at 4 laps down, that is a pretty big mountain that he will have to climb. He's going to head back out to the racetrack. Good news is, compared to a lot of the other race cars, he doesn't have a significant advantage on his tires. I think he probably just forgot to tell his pit crew not to change them. That's not as difficult as it, or excuse me, a little bit more difficult than it sounds here in iRacing. You kind of have to flip through some buttons while you're still racing. But Casey Tillman going to find himself now 6 laps down as the field has flashed on by. Definitely not what he wanted to have to start this race.
The battle for the lead is now beginning to really put pressure on, as the 20 of Bellamy is going to the inside of Paulson. That is for the lead. And Bellamy, who showed a lot of speed in practice, has the nose in front off of turn 2 into turn number 3. Battle of the red cars, and Bellamy's going to get it off of turn number 4.
New race leader Nick Bellamy is taking that number 20 to the front, like you said. Now there's a battle for the second position brewing between Casey Garber and James Paulson. Garber unable to take advantage just yet of that, but do want to make note that the number 11 machine of Kyle Franklin and the number 92 of Casey Tillman actually made contact on lap number 2, and that is the reason why Franklin was well back behind the pack, and that's also the reason why the number 92 of Tillman was on pit lane. But at 6 laps down, like we said, a pretty big mountain for him to climb, as we see quite a few cars very, very tight together on the racetrack, including this battle right here. That's Seth Frazier in the 32. He's got the 37, Caden Anderson right underneath him, and there was almost contact between those two, but Anderson's going to get his nose down there. Frazier's going to give him some room, quite wisely so. Frazier getting really loose there going through turn number 1, and he came back down the racetrack. So that will move Caden Anderson now up into the top 6.
So Anderson up into the top 6, 2-time winner on the tour this season, and you see him still following single file. The first side-by-side battle is still Tidrick and Morang. Actually now, Brightsman and Morang, as a battle breaking out up front, is Anderson looking for another spot as he goes after the 7 of Dylan Huffine, trying to bring Seth Frazier with him. Anderson, 2 wins on the year. Sorry, Peter.
Yeah, I was going to say, Anderson's going to slide through past that number 7 machine, up into the top 5. So very good move there. And we saw Brightsman make that move now up into the 12th position after getting around Chris Meringue. In fact, Meringue is really bleeding here in the 00 machine. He's now come under fire from the number 4 of Seth Frazier. Excuse me, not Seth Frazier, Shane Quinn. I'm getting my names all confused here, but Shane is going to take that spot, so move Quinn up into 14th and Meringue back to 15th. But we ride on board with the number 7 machine of Dylan Huffines. He's also kind of bleeding positions here because he's stuck out there on that high line, kind of being freight trained out there, Greg. And that's not where you want to be because the number 47 slide through. Oh, contact with the number 57 machine. The 7 and the 57 got together. Brian Lambert in the 57 machine there. I think Dylan Huffines really wanted to slam the door because he was tired of being freight trained out there. Let's go back and see this here on the 3Y TV replay. What happened here, Greg?
Looks like the 7. Here you see him getting passed by the 44 of Bromley, and like you said, just was trying to get down and try to stop the bleeding as much as he can, and just slight contact. And the big loser in that, as you saw, was that teal 82 car, the Cascade Championship Wrestling car, Bart Ector Jr. He was the big loser in that, as he got knocked to the outside in that one, and he has lost a lot of positions already, still stuck on the outside. Fortunately for him, he was one of the fastest cars here as he set quick time, and it's a long way to go as we still have just under 180 laps, so plenty of time for that 82 car of Hector to get back into the mix of things.
178 laps to go. Nick Bellamy is your race leader, but it won't be too long until that number 20 machine is in lap traffic, as you see the number 26 machine, Brad Morrison, just a few car lengths in front of him. Kyle Franklin in the number 11 machine also not too in front of that number 26, but it's about a whole straightaway between Franklin and the 11 to the 92 of Casey Tillman, just in front. But nonetheless, that number 20 machine's kind of checked out a little bit over James Paulson. A 1.2 second lead here in the early running.
And Bellamy showed speed last year in his few starts with the NorthWest Tour in that 20 car. Didn't break through and get a win, but he showed that he was one of the faster guys in this series last year. So I can't say I'm too surprised to see the number 20 Better Hall Link Chevy up front right now, as Nick Bellamy really putting on a very solid performance here in the early going. Still searching for that first NorthWest Tour victory, as we didn't see him for pretty much the second half of the year, but he has shown a lot of speed this season, doing another great job here, leading the way early in the Oxford 200.
One driver we're going to have to keep an eye on because he's very, very fast out there on the racetrack right now. Caden Anderson in the number 37 machine, your points leader. It's gone from 11th up to 5th. And that number 37, I've been watching him. He's been showing his nose to that number 42 every chance he can. The 42, of course, driven by Garrett Huffines. And here he goes coming out of turn number 2 once again. You see Caden's being really patient here. I mean, there's a long way to go still. There are 172 laps to be exact. But Caden Anderson definitely is showing the number 42 machine the nose, and sometimes that gets into your head as a race car driver if you have a fast car behind you, so we'll have to keep an eye on that battle. As we can say that Brad Morrison in the 26 machine has now fallen one lap down. You see a couple of the leaders going by him on the inside. So that number 26 machine currently being scored 23rd. That means Kyle Franklin is now the last car on the lead lap, but that number 11 is running pretty good lap times up there, only about a half a tenth slower than your race leader. So I think if Franklin can keep that going, he'll stay on the lead lap here for quite some time.
Franklin doing a good job keeping pace right now. One car kind of stuck on the outside, but he's actually making it work. Is that 72 of BJ Tidricks stuck on the outside, but he's making it work as he was able to get past the 8 of Travis Barnes and go to work on the 46. However, he might get pinned here behind the 26 of Morrison, and yeah, he's got to back off. And that's going to allow Travis Barnes to get right back to the inside and bring Shane Quinn with him. And BJ Tidrick is stuck behind the 26 of Brad Morrison.
He's going to say, all right, I'm tired of being stuck. I'm going to take this 3 wide. That is an impressive move there by BJ Tidrick just to go up to the top side. And unfortunate for the number 92, Casey Tillman, as there was a little bit of contact there between BJ Tidrick and Shane Quinn. But Casey Tillman in the number 92 has taken his machine to the garage. But we have yet to see a caution here in the first 34 laps. And very, very impressive so far.
I think this is the longest run to start a main event the Northwest Tour has had all year. Granted, I did not get a chance to see the first 2 races.
The number 37 of Caden Anderson, sorry to cut in, but the number 37, Caden Anderson, power move coming out of turn number 2 and made it look easy getting around Garrett Huffine. So Caden Anderson now in the 4th position, and I expect to see Caden start to turn some pretty good lap times now that he has a little bit of clean air on the front end of that number 37 machine. Ryan Gormley currently in the 6th position will now try and get around the 42 of Huffines, but really, Huffines didn't make a big slip up or anything. Just that 37 machine was able to get the power down as Jane Paulson in the 80 machine going up the racetrack, and that number 80 is all of a sudden doesn't look like it's driving all too well. Looks like he might be overdriving the racetrack possibly just a little bit, and Casey Garber has been able to close in the back bumper of that number 80.
That 96 doing a great job after starting outside front row. This is your front row right here. Paulson was the pole sitter, and Garber, the 96, was outside. Remember, Paulson did pick up a win by going wire to wire last year at Martinsville by starting on the pole, but not to be this year as he got passed pretty early by Nick Bellamy, who has since just been putting on a clinic in the early stages. But I want to give a shout to that 96 of Casey Garber. He's doing a great job so far, but he's got the guy who has really asserted himself as the guy to watch out for here early in the season to his inside now. Caden Anderson makes it look easy getting around the 96 of Casey Garber.
Yeah, that's exactly what Caden had done a few laps ago when he got around Garrett Huffines. Just came out of the corner, put the power down, was able to really hug the bottom of the racetrack, and when the other car washed out, he was just able to get the nose inside of him and make the move work. And so Caden Anderson really starting to make a charge here, already up into the 3rd position. That's 8 positions up from where he started. Travis Barnes currently your biggest mover of the race in the number 8 machine, up 11 positions, but Caden Anderson plus 8 and looking for more here underneath James Paulson.
Paulson in second as we watch this battle back in the field between Travis Barnes, who has really been the guy that I've been impressed with early in the season in that blue 8 car, as he's there with Breitzman and Shane Quinn and Hector Jr. watching there as well. But I've been so impressed with this 8 car early this year because he has been doing a fantastic job for a guy who's only made technically 4 starts in the Northwest Tour, as we had 2 at Rockingham, but for a guy who's done just 4 races this season, he has done a spectacular job. As you see him trying all kinds of stuff with some contact with Shane Quinn. Hector gets inside and they make contact with Quinn, and Shane Quinn's going to get the worst of that one.
Yeah, Shane Quinn has gone around in the infield, no caution yet, and don't think we'll see a caution here as Shane Quinn kind of slaloms his way back onto the racetrack, but unfortunately he will almost find himself 1 lap down because of Nick Bellamy. Let's see this replay right here as Bart Hector Jr. came to the inside, possibly a little bit of neck code there that might have ultimately resulted in that. We'll see if maybe we can get another angle of it here from the helicopter cam. You see Barnes gets loose there on the curbing that's down there, and before I had to check up, and a little bit of bumping and banging off of Bart Hector's front end, and unfortunately, like you said, Shane Quinn got the bad end of that one. Also want to make note that we have a new 2nd place driver out there. Caden Anderson has gotten around James Paulson, and now the number 37 machine finds himself up in the top 2, and we have seen Caden Anderson be oh so fast this year and already starting to close in on your race leader, Nick Bellamy. Here's the replay of the pass. Just got underneath James Paulson, just powered out of the corner here, got the inside preferred line. See him just roll that center just a little bit better than the 80. Took a little bit to complete that pass, but fortunately for James, it was all for naught trying to hold off that number 37 machine because Caden Anderson has moved up to 2nd. Now he's trying to get around the lapped car of Kyle Franklin here and does so with ease. So now the top 2 are together on the racetrack, Nick Bellamy and Caden Anderson.
I believe Caden Anderson has made more starts on the server in the off season that we saw or had for the Northwest Tour than any other driver combined. I see Caden Anderson online almost every single night, making multiple starts a day, and you can see all that seat time is paying off here as he has methodically worked his way through the field up to 2nd spot in the 37 and tracking down race leader Nick Bellamy with lap traffic ahead. This is all falling into the wheelhouse of that 37 car. 2 wins on the year already and looking very, very stout right now.
Very, very stout indeed, as the number 26 machine, Brad Morrison, will now fall 2 laps down. Out of our 24 starters, Casey Tillman is the only driver who has elected to end his race prematurely. Will be scored with a 24th place finish here. Brad Morrison now in 23rd, 2 laps down. Kyle Franklin so far the only car to be one or more, well, I should say the only car 1 lap down, because Brad Morrison is more than 1 lap down. But if a caution was to come out, Kyle Franklin would receive the lucky dog, at least for now. But Nick Bellamy and Caden Anderson are closing in on the back of the field, which includes Shane Quinn, who went around just a couple laps ago. It also includes Josh Robinson, who transferred in from the B main, and that number 47 machine is out of control. We saw him there just for a split second as we flashed the screen showing that number 47 machine. There he is, and he really looks like he has lost those tires, because he's really struggling out there, as he is now about to be passed from the number 4 machine of Shane Quinn. They're side by side down the back stretch. But Nick Bellamy seeing this battle in front of him play out, and he might have to kind of back up a little bit and let them do battle in front of him. And of course that will bring Caden Anderson to his back bumper.
Meanwhile, we got a great battle going on from 3rd back to 7th between Paulson, Garber, Garrett Huffines, Gormley, and Frazier. They are all single file. They've been nose to tail, but they are peeking on each other, trying to find a way around the guy in front of him. All 5 of these guys, and then Dylan Huffines leading a second train in. Here, they're closing in soon. This is about to be a 10-car freight train coming around the Oxford Plains right now. As you see Frazier taking a peek to the inside of Gormley there, as Gormley got screwed up going into turn 3 there, and Frazier was able to get a really good run.
Yeah, and up at the front, not too much has happened. It really is this battle here. Polson doing a good job of holding off Casey Garber, but behind Garber you've got a very hungry Garrett Huffines, Ryan Gormley, and Seth Frazier, like you said. And then there's a good battle for the 8th position between Dylan Huffines, Brian Lambert, Sean Breitzman, Travis Barnes, BJ Tidrick, Bart Hector Jr. So that is really the, and Travis McKinney. So 14th place, all the way up to 8th in their own little train. So a couple of trains out here on the racetrack with some pretty interesting battles out there. There you see that battle for the 8th position on screen there, led by the number 7 of Dylan Huffines. Right behind him, you see Brian Lambert there in that Triad Toyota Camry Super Late model, sporting those Hoosier tires that they're unable to change. All 200 laps will be on the same tires that they started this race with, so they will be absolutely screaming by the end of this thing. We're already starting to see a couple of race cars out there start to slide around, and really, as this race goes on, Greg, they won't be able to change him. As you see the 8 machine, Travis Barnes, get that curbing once again. Not the first time we've seen him hit those curbs down there. And those curbs, you can see them. They shot up that race car. In fact, he's got a little bit of left front damage now, and I can only think that's from those curbs.
Has to be. I mean, that's really the only thing it can be, is we haven't seen a whole lot of contact in this race other than the issue with Shane Quinn and Hector, and Barnes, I believe, was the 3rd car involved in that. So we haven't seen a whole lot of contact in this race, just a lot of battles back and forth, and a lot of this in the early going, but I have to imagine that that is from the contact with the apron earlier today on that 8 car, at least, where the damage is. He's trying to track down Breitzman right now with Lambert in front of them. But I mean, right now a lot of guys are probably content on just riding. We're on a long green flag run. We're closing in on the distance of that B main. We're just a couple laps away from that now, as the laps just continue to click off, and the leaders have gotten through that lap traffic. And as I said that, I'm watching the 37 of Anderson, and he made contact with the 4 of Shane Quinn going into turn 1 there. 2nd place, Caden Anderson did go door to door with the 37, or the 4 of Quinn, and we saw it there. We'll see if that affects the 37. Here it is again. You saw it on the chopper cam. There was contact. We will see what happens.
Update for the battle for the position. Casey Garber has been shuffled out of the group. He's been freight trained. He went all the way from 3rd and is now all the way back to the 7th position. He got passed by Garrett Huffines, Ryan Gormley, and Seth Frazier, who have now worked themselves up into 4th, 5th, and 6th respectively. And Garber's going to have to try and get down the racetrack, because if he stays up there for too long, he'll have the number 7 machine of Dylan Huffines knocking at his door. As Seth Frazier now starting to do battle with the 44 of Gormley up ahead. In fact, Frazier's got a good run coming out of turn number 2. Moved that number 32 up into the 5th position. As you see Garber and the 7 machine, Dylan Huffines doing battle right behind them.
So Garber now going to work, or trying to hold off Dylan Huffines. Lambert, or no, that was Brightsman, excuse me, in the 46. Saw a white and black car with red numbers, got my wires crossed for a second. He kind of bobbled, and that allowed Barnes to get a run on him for a split second, but he was able to shut the door. Now Huffines gets around Garber, brings Brightsman with him in the 46. Barnes there as well. Then it's Lambert and Hector back there. One car way up top. That was the 48 of Travis McKinney. The other Rockingham winner, he slid way up the track in turn number 3. The winner at Rockingham started shotgun on the field with the new rule for the Tour this season. And he has not been coming through the field as quickly as we thought he would, as he's still having those connection issues that was really beginning to freak him out in that Rockingham race. And I know he spent a lot of time over the 2-week span that we have to try to address those internet issues, and not to his liking just yet, but I know McKinney has been working a lot on those connection issues to try to get it straightened out in that 48 car.
Casey Garber, though, I mean, that number 96 machine was in the 4th position just a few laps ago. Now all the way back in 13th, still bleeding positions, as Jason Templeton will move by. So Casey Garber has now dropped back to 15th position, and he was in 4th just a few laps ago, which is absolutely crazy. Just kind of got shuffled out, and that is the freight training effect that you get here on a racetrack where you really want to be down there on the inside groove.
Meanwhile, up front, the leaders are in traffic, and Caden Anderson, knock, knock, he has caught up to race leader Nick Bellamy as they work their way now around the 911 of Adam Halm. Christopher Heim up there in second. Heim had a huge bobble there going into turn number 3. Bellamy and Anderson just making their way through on the inside. Next up will be Brad Morrison, who's already a lap down. But Anderson has caught Bellamy. Tri-Cities versus Spokane right now.
Yeah, and really once Nick Bellamy gets around the number 26 machine of Brad Morrison, who's 2 laps down, there's quite a lot of clean track in front of him. In fact, there's probably about a full straightaway plus. So, almost contact in the mid-pack between Sean Brightsman and Brian Lambert. That number 46 machine looks absolutely wicked loose right now as you ride on board with the number 37 machine. There is Brightsman, but he had to check up just a little bit going through the corner, and he has slid back into the 9th position now. Oh, he gets the curbing down there. All up out of shape for Sean Brightsman, trying to work his way back up through the field, but now all of a sudden starting to stack up behind Brightsman.
We've got a battle for the lead. Sorry, Peter, but Caden Anderson is on the doorstep of Nick Bellamy. He is to the inside. Battle for the lead. Lap 86 of 200. Caden Anderson, 2 wins on the year. Inside of Bellamy, looking for the race lead. Great
Battle between these two. There's not much between them on the racetrack right now. Very, very tight coming out of turn number 2. You can see exactly what Bellamy's trying to do. He's trying to pinch down that number 37 to prevent him from getting a run off the corner, but Caden Anderson has the preferred groove and will lead that lap by 34 1/1000ths of a second. In fact, Caden Anderson led the lap prior by 0 thousandths of a second. Had to go down to 4 digits in the live timing and scoring, but Anderson slowly but surely starting to pull ahead here. Bellamy doing everything he can but unfortunately Anderson's going to clear him coming out of turn number 2. So Caden Anderson will become your third different leader here tonight at Oxford Plains Raceway, and I think that number 37, with how strong he's been, is probably going to pull away, but we'll have to see if that does happen. Really, your top 2 have about a 6-second gap back to James Paulson and the number 80 machine. That's really, really impressive that these top 2 have put 6 seconds on that third place car. And then it's the gaggle of car that we have been watching, including this man right here, the 42 machine. Oh, Garrett Huffines running in the 4th position, trying to do all he can to get around James Paulson, who currently resides in 3rd. And I know you mentioned this, Greg, but Paulson, when he starts up the front, he can be a pretty difficult one to pass.
Yeah, he picked up the wire-to-wire win in Martinsville and followed it up with another in similar style at South Boston last year. Of course, South Boston this year was won by the guy who is leading the race right now, Caden Anderson. However, both those races came on dual main nights, and James Paulson was the winner in both dual number 2 after they had a race to try to figure it out. So curious if Paulson just didn't quite have the track figured out as much as he would have liked before starting on the pole for this one, because typically when Paulson starts on the pole, it's very, very difficult to bet against him, and he's doing a great job. Mind you, he's still running in the 3rd position, and we've gone 94 laps without a yellow, and he's only lost 2 positions right now. So still a great run by all means for James Paulson, but not what we're accustomed to seeing when he starts on the pole.
Yeah, it really is impressive to see here the first 95 completed laps under green flag here. Really, there's only been 2 bits of contact that might have brought out a caution, one being Shane Quinn going through the infield, the other one, of course, being the number 11 machine of Kyle Franklin and Casey Tillman at the start of the race. But since then, this field has put on a fantastic show, and I'll tell you what, Greg, this is kind of what the Northwest Tour is all about. A lot of these people in tonight's race, they're real-life race car drivers, or they tend to race cars, they're crewmen, that sort of thing, and they know how to get it done on a short track like this.
And they are at a track which suits a lot of these guys' driving style right now. A lot of drivers know their way around this racetrack. However, this is the first time the Northwest Tour has visited this racetrack, so it's very, very interesting to see how these guys are adapting right now, to see how this race unfolds as we are closing in on halfway. Let's go through the field a little bit, starting with the race leader, the 37 of Caden Anderson. It took him a little while to get up to the front, Peter, but once he did, he's done a good job maintaining grip, although second place Nick Bellamy is not going away.
Yeah, that number 20 machine of Nick Bellamy just 0.3 of a second behind Caden Anderson, trying to wear down the back bumper of that number 37 machine, as now we have reached the halfway mark. So Bellamy still holding on strong here, but it's a pretty long gap back to James Paulson. In fact, it is now ballooned up to almost 8 seconds between the number 20 and the number 80. There he is, James Paulson, currently riding in the 3rd position in that bright red machine, running a little bit higher groove on the racetrack, but also, Greg, I'm starting to notice this number 80 is one of those drivers really starting to slide around this racetrack.
And I think I can explain why that is, because I just checked. Track temperature 133 and rising. We are getting into that Rockingham level that we saw 2 weeks ago. You mentioned it before the race even started. Track temp was chilling at around 100 degrees. It has gone up 30 degrees plus since the start of this race and continues to rise. We're seeing exactly what we saw at Rockingham. The later this race goes, the hotter the track temp gets, and when it gets up as high as it is right now, those Hoosier tires, they just start screaming at you the longer this green flag run goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, right behind James Paulson, we find the number 42 machine, Garrett Huffines. He has been unable to find a way around James Paulson, but he's definitely trying. That number 42 is getting a pretty good run coming out of the corner, especially turn number 2. I've been watching him close in on the back bumper of the number 80 machine, but he just doesn't seem like he's ready to push the issue just yet, and quite rightfully so, as we still have 94 laps to go. He has a couple of lapped cars to deal with just in front of him that might be able to help Huffines. We'll see this. We'll see that number 42 machine now get underneath the 80 machine, at least briefly, but Holston's going to hold on here. We'll watch this battle here briefly as we now see the the number 32, yes, of Seth Frazier right behind the 42 of Garrett Huffines, and a good run for Seth Frazier. We saw him make a couple of moves earlier on in the race, got into that top 5 now and holding on to that position quite well.
Seth Frazier has done a great job today, and he's really been very, very consistent here in the early stages of this season, and I know that's got to feel good for that guy in the 32, because so many times last year he was up in the mix and just things didn't go his way, and the one that stands out to me was at ORP last year when it looked like he had the race won, but then some contact with another driver late in the going derailed that opportunity. I know he's been looking for some redemption ever since that, so it's good to see the 32 having another good run.
Without a doubt, and running right behind him is the number 8 machine. You've mentioned him a couple times here tonight. That's Travis Barnes. He started his way well back in the field in 22nd position. He's gained 16 spots from the start, slowly but surely picking him up and laying him down. And now with the number 32 right in front of him, the top 5 is begging for Travis Barnes right now. Right behind him, the number 44 of Ryan Gormley. Been a fairly quiet night so far for Ryan, but no damage on that number 44 machine, and has done a fantastic job of gaining 3 spots from the start of this race. Number 44 now in 7th. Dylan Huffines right behind him in the number 7 machine. Started this race in the 7th position. Now has slid back 1 spot from the start, but that National Guard number 7 machine looking very, very dapper here tonight. And working his way around the racetrack quite nicely as he's going to see if he can get around the 00 machine. That, of course, being Chris Meringue 1 lap down here. 9th place, Sean Breitzman. And we saw Sean be very, very quick in the early going, but has fallen off just a smidgen. You can see he's lost some ground to the back bumper of that number 7 machine. But currently, Breitzman inside the top 10. Right behind him, the number 57 machine, Brian Lambert. That Triad Racing Technologies Toyota currently holding on to the top 10 position in 10th here in the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. I'll tell you what, Greg, these laps are winding down very, very quickly. Only 84 laps to go now. It's been 10 laps since I last said how many laps we had to go, and it seems like it's just a blink of an eye. These guys are doing a fantastic job here tonight.
We almost had a yellow a couple laps ago, though. The 82 of Bart Hector Jr. washed way up the track in turn 3 and 4. That allowed Jason Templeton to get the spot from him. However, the 82 of Hector able to fight back in the Dodge. But he is struggling right now in that 82 car, which is kind of a surprise considering he set fast time. He's actually dropped a spot from the start. Oh, correction, I was looking at the numbers flip-flopped. He has actually gained 2 from where he started. Started 13th, rolling in the 11th spot right now, as he is now beginning to stretch out the gap. And he has to go in a hurry because I just saw who's behind him. Race leader Caden Anderson, 2nd place Nick Bellamy. There's just a 1-car cushion from the guy who qualified fastest from going a lap down, and that cushion just went away as BJ Tidrick goes a lap down. The next car in line for race leader Caden Anderson was quick time Bart Hector Jr.
Yeah, Caden Anderson picking him up and laying him down here. There's now only 11 cars on the lead lap. We started this race with 24, so we have less than half the field now on the lead lap. 23 cars are still running, and like you mentioned, Bart Hector Jr., he's going to be watching his rearview mirror because that number 37 is closing pretty quickly here. But what about the 10th position, Brian Lambert? I mean, Lambert's got about a 3-second gap over Bart Hector Jr., so that's good news for Brian. Even if Bart Hector got caught, there's still a significant gap up to the back bumper of the number 57 machine, but only time will tell just how far that number 37 can lap up through. But at least right now, up to the 11th position, one lap down. Very, very impressive.
And one thing I'm noticing, though, we talk about Caden Anderson and how impressive he's been clicking them through. The 20 of Nick Bellamy not going anywhere. 5/10 of a second, we have a caution. Our first caution of the day.
First caution
125.
of the day. Just trying to see what happened here. I don't see anything out of the ordinary here. Let's see if we can see what happened here. Maybe the 26 machine? No, doesn't look like him.
And not sure what the caution was there.
Let's see, word that might have seen someone have some issues. So still trying to sort this one out here. Looks like, oh, Travis McKinney, we're getting word. Having some issues on the back stretch, having some connection issues here. Let's see if we can see exactly what happened. You can see that number 48 up there in the wall. He was being closely followed by another race car. I think that's the number 47, Josh Robinson. And let me see if I can see if there was contact. But of course, Josh Robinson, he was down there on the inside groove. The 48 was kind of blinking, and they kind of had it coming together on the racetrack. And they made contact, at least for me, when Travis McKinney wasn't even on my screen, which might have been one of the reasons why we couldn't exactly see what happened there. But McKinney was able to get back going and going straight. But it looks like Travis McKinney has tapped on that one because of his connection issues, and that connection issues has been ongoing since Rockingham just a couple weeks ago. And of course, like Greg mentioned, trying to get that fixed. But this will be interesting. This is going to kind of reset the field. I mean, Paulson was about 8 seconds back behind your race leader, but will now be behind Caden Anderson and Nick Bellamy up towards the front. Garrett Huffines 4th, Seth Frazier 5th, Travis Barnes 6th. So resetting the field here will be very, very interesting, as we now have less than the B main distance left to go in this race, as we were going to go green, but the caution has been extended by a lap here because there has been a lot of scuffling going on in the back of the field, trying to figure out where these drivers are going to line up exactly. But at least for now, we'll get an extra lap here. And interesting to see, we're actually starting to see some marbles form at the top of the racetrack, just due to the fact that all these drivers now running that low line. We're seeing those marbles, and you can kind of see that groove up there just on the right hand side of the track, kind of where it starts to get a little bit dusty. You start to see those marbles, and that could have an effect. There's some more marbles down there on the racetrack, on the inside of the racetrack. So pretty interesting to see that. But pace car is off. Race back in the hands of Caden Anderson. And Anderson, ooh, boy, gets a little bit sideways there once he got back on the loud pedal. But that number 20 machine, Nick Bellamy, unable to capitalize on the 37, slipping up just a little bit. But Nick Bellamy will slot into 2nd position. James Paulson in 3rd. Garrett Huffines 4th on the outside. You see those top 2 have scooted away, but it's pretty much side by side all the way back through the pack, Greg.
Bellamy, I'm noticing some connection issues now beginning to develop on the 20, as well as everyone's still single file behind him, and Bellamy trying to hang on, but we're seeing the same connection issues that we saw with Travis McKinney earlier in the day now beginning to form at the 20 of Bellamy. But look at this side-by-side battle, 3 deep right now, starting with Paulson and Huffines, and it's just an incredible sight to see back there as Paulson and Huffines get together. You got Travis Barnes and Seth Frazier right there in the catbird seat, and Dylan Huffines and Ryan Gormley there as well. And looks like Paulson's going to maybe clear Huffines off of turn number 2. He's got him for the time being. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. As Frazier to the inside of Huffines with a little bit of contact.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's going to open up the door for Seth Frazier in that number 32 machine. And Seth is trying to get up into the 4th position here over Garrett Huffines. And look at Travis Barnes. He's going to try and take that spot. So now we're starting to see something that we saw earlier on in this race, Greg. That number 42 stuck up there on the high side. started to get freight train just a little bit. He's going to slide down in front of the number 44 machine and stop the bleeding. Oh, contact! The 42 just got tagged by the 44 machine, and the 7 machine, Dylan Huffines, gets thrown up the racetrack. 3 wide coming out of the corner. We're 3 wide now going into the corner. That's not going to work. The 44 and the 7 get together. Fantastic save by the 44. He's still trying to save it. He saves it. Fantastic save there by the 44, and Huffines still loose. Still more contact. The 44 gets thrown up into the marbles. And that is not what Ryan Gormley wanted to see, but I gotta say, fantastic save amongst all those drivers. And now, unfortunately for Gormley, he's been shuffled back all the way outside the top 10.
Ryan Gormley wrecked 3 times there. He just forgot to tell the car that they were wrecked, because that was an incredible piece of driving by that 44 of Ryan Gormley. More contact now with the 44 of Gormley as he gets hit by Kyle Franklin, as just as we think things are settling down, there's more contact for the 44. Man, oh man, this is a 5-lap span that Ryan Gormley is going to want to forget, but it's going to haunt his dreams, because that could have cost him a shot at the win with how this race has gone so far. Back up front though, Seth Frazier now beginning to knock on the door of the 80 of James Paulson. Seth Frazier up in the 4th spot, Travis Barnes in 5th, and they are not losing ground to those top 2, as that caution really seemed to bunch the field back up in a way that they needed it, because now the 37 and the 20 don't have that huge gap they had anymore. Paulson, Frazier, and Barnes not going away, and Garrett Huffines still there as well. Top 5 cars single file right now, and just a little bit back to Huffines and Breitzman. Anderson beginning to pull a little bit of a gap now over Bellamy as Barnes goes to work on Frazier for the 4th spot. This caution is exactly what those guys from 3rd to about 7th needed.
Kind of gets back up in the fray for the battle for the win here at Oxford as we're quickly closing in on just 50 laps to go. There's Travis Barnes in the number 8 machine, currently finds himself 5th. That's 17 spots higher from where he started tonight's race. Very, very impressive run for the number 8 machine. And Seth Frazier, that's 5 spots higher than where he started in that number 32 here in the 4th position. And, you know, he needs a good points night. He's up there inside the top 10 in points, so a good points night here would be very beneficial to that number 32 machine as he's looking to the inside of James Paulson here. Wasn't able to do anything with that number 80 just yet, but Paulson's taking a very interesting line here that I've noticed. I'm not quite sure if he's overdriving the car a little bit, but oh, the 80 machine gets sideways coming out of turn number 2. He hit the apron there just a little bit. That yellow, well, not yellow, the white curb, I don't know my colors, coming out of the corner there really upset that number 80 machine, but now Seth Frazier down there on that curb, and you can see how it upset that car. He lost a pretty decent chunk of change to that number 80 machine there.
Seth Frazier wants around that 80 car, and he's getting he's going around after contact with Travis Barnes, and he's going to get collected by the 82 of Hector. And Seth Frazier giving it all he had, and problems that develop contact with the 8 of Barnes. And there goes that run that Seth Frazier had put together.
Yeah, just as we were saying, you know, it was put together a good run, and Travis Barnes has tapped on that one. That number 8 has already moved to the back of the field. You see that number 32, I think he might have got a little bit loose there in the center of the corner, Greg, and had to check up a little bit, and the number 8 machine just didn't quite check up in time, tried to put his nose down there, and it just did not fit. And now will find himself at the back of the field here for this restart. Good news for Travis Barnes is there isn't that many cars on the lead lap, so he'll only move back to around the 12th position, but Shane Quinn in the number 4 machine will be your lucky dog. But Greg, why didn't you try and figure out one of these drivers to dial up here under this brief yellow flag? Only our 2nd yellow here tonight as we have 50 laps to go.
I think I would like to talk to that guy who's running in 2nd, who's having a fantastic run. That is the 20 of Nick Bellamy. Greg Rent 3YTV, do you have a copy?
Hey Greg, how's it doing?
It's going good, man. I'm just enjoying watching you race with Caden. You led a lot of the laps in the early going, and you are not letting that 37 car get away from you. Are you saving anything at all, or are you really just going at it with Caden right now?
I got a lot in the bank still. I had that nice cushion to start off with, so I just kind of rolled around the track. As far as the rubber on the track goes, it's slicker and crap.
All right, Nick. So under caution, you led almost the entire first half of that race. Caden got to you near the conclusion of the first half there, but you said that you got a lot left in the bank. So do you have a idea in your head of when you're going to go, with us right now having just under 50 to go, or are you just going to kind of wait and see and just when you decide to go, you decide to go?
Well, I've noticed he's only made one mistake so far, so if he makes another, I'm going to try and capitalize on that. Other than that, just stay in distance, maybe 2 to go, make a move then, try and hold off Paulson as we go.
All right, Nick, we'll let you get ready for this restart. So good luck the rest of the way, and we'll see if we're talking with you in victory lane at the end.
Thank you.
Well, very interesting to see that, Greg. But Greg, why don't you call us for... Oh, wait, no, we're going to have one more lap here under yellow as we... once again, it's been waved off. So kind of interesting to see that. The field at the back trying to get sorted out here for this restart. But you can kind of see that because this is such a short racetrack, these caution laps go by pretty quickly, which is nice to see. I think you can pretty much fit an entire caution period here in about one caution flag lap at Daytona and Talladega, which is quite nice. But pace car lights are off once again. We're going to get set to go back to green flag here with only 45 laps to go. When the green flag flies, pace car on pit road, green flag back in the air. Everyone gets, oh, the 37, Caden Anderson. What a crazy restart. That number 37 was completely sideways. And look at Nick Bellamy trying to charge around the outside. We're side by side for the race lead.
Bellamy said if the 37 made a mistake, he was going to try to capitalize, and there was the mistake that Bellamy was waiting for, as he's on the outside of Anderson right now. But Anderson does a spectacular job to fend it off. We got a car sideways up in turn number 2. I think it was the 96 of Garber was checked up, and we stayed green, but someone developed a problem. I didn't see who it was. I think it was the 96 of Garber, but I could have been wrong.
I think it was the 72 of BJ Tidrick, actually, because Tidrick lost a couple of spots out there on the racetrack. There he is in that gold and white machine, and go back on the replay, can confirm that it was BJ Tidrick, so he's going to have to gain a couple of positions more. He's back in 11th currently. The only car behind him on the lead lap is Shane Quinn. But looking back up at the front, some very, very racy racing between these two, between the 46 of Sean Brightsman and James Paulson, and Paulson looks like he's going to lose that position out to Sean Brightsman. So Brightsman, we kind of highlighted him early in this race as one to watch to work his way forward through the field. Kind of, might have got tagged there a little bit by Garrett Huffines, but that number 46 is going to stay strong down there on the inside. But Brightsman all of a sudden now knocking on the top 3 here. Very, very interesting to see that. Brightsman on the inside, Paulson on the outside. These two still doing battle here around this 0.38 mile oval. Garrett Huffines in 5th is trying to figure out which one of these two cats in front of him will take that position from one another, because they're still side by side. I thought that Brightsman might clear him last time, but Brightsman finally does. So move Brightsman up into 3rd. Garrett Huffines now trying to take that 4th position from James Paulson, and Paulson now has got to be careful here because he's got quite a few hungry cars behind him trying to take position from him, and this would be an absolute disaster for that number 80 machine who's been in 3rd position for most of this race, Greg.
This would be a disaster for the 80 for sure, as he rides in 5th right now trying to fend off the Huffines brothers. But going back to that guy in 3rd for just a moment, remember what we said in the B main. Brightsman was riding momentum from that Xfinity Series win on Monday in the playoffs, and he has been on a tear in that series. And we said we were wondering if he could transfer that momentum over. How about up to 3rd place from the B main with 34 laps to go? Sean Brightsman, he is definitely riding that momentum right now. He is brimming with confidence as he goes to work on the 20 of Bellamy.
Yeah, definitely that number 46 machine is looking pretty fast because, yep, like you said, he is coming for Nick Bellamy here with only 34 laps to go. Of course, the fact that he was able to move into the A main from the B main will mean he doesn't have passing points to obtain in this race, but Breitzman is not really caring about those passing points right now because he's looking for the win. In fact, he's going underneath the number 20 machine right here, and Bellamy's got to be careful here. We kind of heard that he felt like he had a lot left in the tank, but as of right now, that number 20 starting to lose time, both on your race leader, but also might lose some track position here if he gets passed by Sean Breitzman.
And this is exactly what Caden Anderson wanted to see. 2 wins on the year for the Yakima product, and he is gunning for win number 3. But one thing he might be concerned about is another couple of Yakima guys behind this battle. The Huffines brothers, Garrett in the 42 and Dylan in the 7. Those two are both hungry for their first iRacing Northwest Tour wins. Garrett Huffines just picked up the biggest win of his career at the Yakima Speedway. He won the Fall Classic. 37 cars took the green flag in that main event. Garrett Huffines started 8th and led the most laps. He has been, the smile hasn't left his face since that race, and now here he is. He just moved into 3rd as he follows the 46 by, moved Breitzman in the 2nd, Garrett in the 3rd, bringing Dylan with him. The Huffines brothers are trying to push the 46 of Breitzman up there and contend with the 37 of Anderson as they have gotten around the 20 of Nick Bellamy. And remember, the 7 of Huffines, the 20 of Bellamy, they have a little bit of a history. They had an issue at Martinsville last year. This is curious because this is the first time those two have been together in a race since that incident at Martinsville. I'm curious how this is going to play out if these two have the typical racers' memories that we see.
Yeah, race car drivers can have a very long memory, I'll tell you that much. But unfortunately for Nick Bellamy, he's going to lose out that position to the number 7 machine. And now he's come under fire from the 80 of James Paulson. Remember, Paulson was stuck on the outside. Well, he was able to get down to the inside groove. And now it's Paulson trying to get that position back. He's currently in 6th, but if he can get around that number 20 and pole vault him back into the top 5, which is pretty much what he deserves, running in 3rd place most of the night, but kind of been shuffled back a little bit here in the last couple of laps. We only have 24 laps to go, and up at the front, Caden Anderson is running some very, very quick lap times, and over the last 5 laps, he's been about a half-tenth faster than Sean Breitzman. So Caden Anderson stretching out his lead here with only about 23 laps to go.
He tacked another 0.2 of a second onto that in lap traffic. That is a product of the fact that Garrett Huffines, the 42, has caught the 46 of Breitzman. Garrett Huffines, remember, he finished 2nd to Anderson at Rockingham in the first duel. He no doubt wants to improve that one position as Nick Bellamy still losing spots as the 80 of Paulson's gotten around. Now the 82 of Hector Jr. gets around, and Hector Jr. is going to bring his good buddy Seth Frazier with him inside as well. Brian Lambert beginning to close into this. So Caden Anderson is checked out, but it is racing from 2nd to about 7th right now between all these guys right now. All these guys are on the lead lap right now. They're closing in on lap traffic. So this incredible battle you see right now between the 46 all the way back to the 57 is all for position right now. These guys are racing and they know it because less than 20 laps to go. They know this is their only shot if they want to get up there.
Yeah, laps are quickly winding down here, and Huffines, you mentioned that big win that he had. I mean, he is not backing down off the back bumper of Sean Breitzman, and Breitzman definitely looks a little bit more sideways in that number 42 machine. I think Breitzman definitely struggling with that number 46 machine. You look out back of Breitzman looking at the front end of Huffines, and Huffines trying to do all he can to get a run underneath the number 46 machine. Ooh, man, 46 getting sideways there on entry into turn number 1. And really, I think Breitzman might be holding up this pack. That's why we see a train from 2nd all the way back to the 9th position. 9th place, of course, being Brian Lambert. Nick Bellamy was able to get down to the inside groove finally but all the way back in 8th. It looks like James Paulson has now been shuffled up the racetrack with the number 82 of Bart Hector Jr. getting up underneath him.
That's the battle for position right now between Paulson and Hector. Another battle for position breaking out as Brightsman washed up the track. That allowed Garrett Huffines to get to the inside with his younger brother Dylan behind him. This could be what the Huffines brothers needed to try to get both of themselves onto the podium. Garrett has a nose in front of Brightsman as they cross the strike. Caden Anderson is checked out. He has left the building, so this is the battle right here as Garrett gets around the 46 who bobbles a little bit. Brings Dylan with him as Hector gets up into the top 5. Frazier now to the inside of Paulson as Dylan goes door to door with Brightsman. Garrett now begins to check out of this battle, and Hector closes up on the back bumper of Dylan as Dylan clears Brightsman for 3rd. Here comes Hector to the inside now of Brightsman for the 3rd spot, bringing Frazier with him, who's locked in a battle with Paulson, and Bellamy back on the bottom. Can he try to get back up and get a couple extra spots? Excellent racing from 4th on back now. Now 3rd as Brightsman gets back on the outside of Dylan Huffines.
Yeah, I mean, great move there by Garrett Huffines. I'd say I'm all too surprised that number 46 machine has looked very sideways for the last 20 laps or so. Just kind of moved up into that higher groove, now getting freight trained, but I'm really impressed with this number 82 machine. Great recovery for Bart Hector Jr. We kind of talked about him around the halfway distance, Greg, and we kind of said, well, he's stuck back there around the 10th position, but he's moved his way now up into the top 4 positions with that move over Sean Brightsman. And look at Seth Frazier. Remember, Seth Frazier had that contact not all too long ago with the number 8 machine of Travis Barnes, and he is now almost back inside the top 5, which is where he was at the time of that contact.
Both the 32 and the 82 were caught up in that incident as Huffines caught the apron there. That allowed Hector to get a run. So Frazier and Hector both caught up in that same incident, back up to 4th and 5th and battling with each other. Contact trouble! Lambert, and I believe that was Paulson. It was the other white and red car. Yeah, that was the 80 of Paulson. They got together. Let's take a look at the 3Y TV replay. You see them right there. Oh, contact, and what a save by Paulson, and great job by Lambert as well to dodge that one.
Yeah, pretty gentlemanly thing there that we saw out of that contact there. I mean, really, the number 57 machine of Lambert could have just driven right through Paulson, but he decided to kind of back up a little bit and prevent further contact. So very good move there as we see Josh Robinson off the racetrack right now, almost into the outside wall. He was letting all the leaders by and clipped the dirt up there and gonna lose some track position, but not any positions. He's currently 3 laps down in the number 47 machine. But let's see what we can see out of this battle, because this is Dylan Huffines running in 3rd, Bart Hector Jr. 4th, Seth Frazier 5th, Nick Bellamy 6th position. Remember, he got shuffled back. Sean Brightsman has been shuffled back to 7th, and there's a pretty decent gap now between James Paulson in 8th and Brightsman in 7th due to that contact between the 80 and the 57 machine. There's about a second between the 80 and the 57 right now on the racetrack as well. So this is the best battle on the racetrack, battle for 3rd, as we only have 3 laps to go. Caden Anderson is going to get the 2-lap to go signal. The 2 flags are in the flagman's hand, as now he's going to go over and grab the white flag, because Caden Anderson, ladies and gentlemen, coming out of turn number 4, will take the white flag. And Greg, it's been a very, very good run for this driver right here, the number 37. We've seen it all season long, very, very fast out there, now just half a lap away from the checkered flag.
Caden Anderson through turns 3 and 4. He's going to get win number 3 on the year and his career. Caden Anderson with a slide off turn number 4 takes the checkered flag. Caden Anderson, 3 wins on the year, showing that he will be the guy to beat. He wins the Oxford 200.
And Garrett and Dylan Huffines will round out your podium, finishing 2nd and 3rd. Bart Hector Jr. finishes 4th, Seth Frazier 5th. Good recovery for Seth Frazier, and also a good run through the field for that number 82 machine of Bart Hector Jr. Very, very impressive here as you see that number 37 burn him down here on the front stretch.
Hayden Anderson showing everybody that he is the guy to beat in the Northwest Tour this year. He had not visited victory lane in the Northwest Tour coming into this season. Here he is, 3 wins in the first 5 races, burns it down once again here at Oxford. Hayden Anderson, the winner of the inaugural Northwest Oxford 200.
Yeah, fantastic to get his 3rd win here early in the season in the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step away for just a brief moment here on 3 Wide TV, line up some interviews for you, and hopefully get to talk to your top 3 finishers here tonight, Hayden Anderson, Garrett Huffines, and Dylan Huffines. Just a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Oxford Games Raceway for the last few interviews here tonight for the conclusion of the Oxford 200. You haven't missed anything while you've been away, except for our producer raging about the chair that he has. But I believe that Greg Renz has been able to catch up with the third and second place finishers here tonight, the 2 Huffines brothers. Greg?
Yeah, Garrett and Dylan, you guys got a copy?
Yes. Yep, got a copy.
Well, guys, great job racing, both of you guys, making your way through the field. And we'll start with you, Garrett, because that move you made on Bellamy late in the going, or actually Brightsman, excuse me, the move late on Brightsman to get that second spot. Tell us about that move, because that was really what sealed the deal for that podium for you, because once you made that pass, you're able to set sail and separate yourself from the rest of the field.
Yeah, I was just trying to set him up where I wouldn't run into him and spin him. So I would enter a little higher and try to cut underneath him with a good run off the corner.
And he did that, and that left his younger brother, Dylan, to try to fight the hounds off. And Dylan, you were able to get around Brightsman as well, but you had to fend off a challenge from the 82 of Hector in the closing stages. How much did you have left in your 7 car to try to hold off the 82 of Hector?
I feel like I still had quite a bit left in it. I almost got by my brother a couple times. I had a few good runs on him, but that 82 car, he saved his tires pretty good all race, and he was right there. Garrett told me to follow him through as soon as he made the move on Brightsman, and I did, and it worked out.
Well, you guys did a great job. This question goes out to the both of you. And we kind of alluded to it there, you did, Dylan. With you guys being brothers, how exactly do you guys work together to try to get through that traffic? Do you guys kind of follow each other through? Does one of them kind of say, hey, take this line? How do you guys communicate each other mid-race to try to work together to get to the front?
Well, I try to get it so we're not racing each other. We race everyone else, and once we get to the front, we can race each other all we want. But the main goal is to get both of us to the front.
And Dylan, same question.
Well, there's times we want to race each other super hard and get into each other and stuff, but honestly, to finish a race and get finishes like we want, we really need to work together because it's nice having teammates like that. And yeah, that's about all I got.
All right, well, this is, I believe, the first time both of you have been on the podium in the same race. I know, Garrett, this is your second place finish of the year, but that's got to give you guys a boost to know that you guys can work together and have good results like this with both you guys finishing on the podium.
Yeah, it gives us a lot of confidence.
All right, well, we're going to let you guys go, but before we do, we know you both have a lot of shout-outs you guys want to give, so you guys go ahead and give them to us.
For one, I just want to thank BJ and Seth. They put in a lot of time with this tour and all the sponsors making this thing happen.
I just gotta thank Sarge's Place for sponsoring this race, and it's a really cool thing to be able to sponsor a race. It helps out the series a lot.
All right, well, congratulations to the Huffines brothers, Garrett and Dylan, second and third. Great job today, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Greg, I've made my way down to victory lane, and I have caught up with driver of the number 37 machine, Caden Anderson. And Caden, my oh my, another fantastic race for you. Started in the 11th position, but worked your way up into the top 5 quite quickly. And it was around lap 85 where you took the race lead, and you did not look back, leading the last 114 laps here tonight. It looked like you had left a decent amount left in the tank because you were able to scoot away there at the end. Just kind of tell us about the race from your perspective here tonight.
Yeah, my goal was to get to the front pretty early, just because I knew it was going to be tough to pass people because the outside would get really fast on the long run. So I tried to get to the front as fast as I could, and then just make no mistakes. I mean, this track is not forgiving at all, so mistakes are huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know we saw a couple drivers make mistakes and then get shuffled out to that high groove, and once they were stuck out there, they lost positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10-fold, just because of the fact that outside groove just never seemed to get going here tonight. But you definitely made a couple of hiccups there, specifically on those restarts. How difficult was it to get those rear tires hooked up?
It was really difficult. This track is really abrasive, so the tires had a lot of laps on them after we had that long green flag run, so I was kind of worried that I was going to get passed on the outside by Nick, but I was able to keep the lead.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Greg Rentz alluded to this earlier in the race, that you are on iRacing a lot, and you've had a fantastic start to the season. But just to kind of put things into perspective, how much do you credit your good success here in the early going to the amount of practice that you've been putting in over the past few weeks?
A lot. I think practice with the setup that they have and the track and these type of cars is huge. I mean, the more practice you get, the better you are with the car, you know?
Yeah, without a doubt. And hopefully you can keep that practice levels high, because you're off to such a fantastic start here on the season. But the next big races are the road course races, where we go to Watkins Glen and I believe Laguna Seca. Are you one of those drivers who likes road courses or not?
I'm personally not a fan of road courses. I don't mind racing them. So I'm definitely gonna be putting in a lot of practice this week, this couple weeks getting into the racing.
Yeah, of course, next week do have a week off for Thanksgiving, but I'm looking forward to those road course races here in a couple of weeks because I think it's going to bring out some different shades of different drivers. So hopefully you can get the feel for the Glen and Laguna Seca because those will be the two racetracks that will feature at two road course races in one night, which will be very, very interesting. But Caden, of course, once again, before we let you go here on 3 White TV, you want to give us some shout-outs?
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Sargent's Place for sponsoring this race and Mike Woods Race Design for designing my car.
All right. Well, thank you for those shout-outs and shout out to them, especially Sargent's Place for jumping on board here tonight. But nonetheless, we thank you for stopping by, Caden. Once again, congratulations on the victory. That will, of course, pad that point standings. Coming in tonight already as the points leader and walking away with a little bit bigger lead, Caden.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Greg, that was your race winner, driver of the number 37 machine. Fantastic run tonight. And I was just very, very impressed with how that number 37 worked his way up through the field here and was able to translate that into a race win. But very, very interesting to see that. Greg, anyone else here that you see in the TeamSpeak that might be interesting to interview here before we get to the final race results?
I kind of want to see possibly with either the 82 or the 32. I see the 32 of Fraser. I kind of want to know what happened with them and see the battle between them getting through.
Now let's see if we can drag up Seth Fraser here in the 30 machine. Seth Fraser, Peter Short here in the 3 Wide TV booth, and also joining us is Bart Hector in the number 82 machine. And Greg, I believe you got some questions for them?
Yeah, hey guys, I was just curious after the incident around the halfway point, how you guys were able to get up through the field together and get up into the top 5, both of you. So I'm kind of curious how you guys were able to put whatever happened aside and just go to work and get back up into the top 5.
Go ahead, Bert. Well, that long run, I'm not in very good shape. So that long run, I was gonna get lapped by Caden. So I needed a break, and lucky with that break, I was able to regroup and get around some cars and almost get in third. And a couple close calls. That last caution, I believe I hit the guy that spun out, and I thought it was gonna screw my car, but it didn't do anything to it.
Yeah, and that was actually the 32 of Seth that you did catch there, so we all thought that it was going to be a problem for both of you guys, but both of you went to work. And Seth, I mean, we thought you had the worst of it because you not only got hit, you also were the one that took the big flat spot on the tires, but you did a great job getting through there. So tell us about racing up there with Bart through the field.
Well, here you just want to be on the bottom, so when you see somebody get pinned to the outside, you just try to stay on the guy in front of his bumper and stay low and hopefully follow the freight train.
All right, well, both of you guys did a great job getting through traffic late in the going to get up into the top 5. So while we got you, before we sign off, do you guys have any shout-outs that you guys want to give?
I just want to thank Mike Wood back in Middlesex, North Carolina, for painting up a bunch of these cars for us and making us all look good, and Sarge's Place for coming on board and sponsoring this weekend. Yeah, I think, once again, like I say every time, thanks to Andy Fuller for building this computer. It's way nicer than my other computer, which had no graphics. And then thank you, Greg, for letting me use the Cascade Championship Wrestling paint scheme.
All right, congratulations, guys, on 2 very hard-fought top 5 finishes, and we'll see you guys at the next one.
Yep.
All right. Well, I gotta say that was very, very interesting. It was a good run for both of them. I know we said that towards the end, that it was a great recovery for both of those drivers to work their way up, and sure enough, coming away with 4th and 5th once it was all said and done. But I think it's about time for us to go through our final race results here tonight. Caden Anderson getting the W. Garrett Huffines finishing in second. Dylan Huffines, his brother, finishing one spot behind him in third. Bart Hector Jr. finishing fourth. Seth Frazier fifth. Nick Bellamy sixth. Sean Brightsman seventh. James Paulson eighth. He was third for most of this race, but got shuffled back there towards the end. Brian Lambert coming home in ninth. He made a little bit of contact with Paulson there towards the end of the race, but did a very gentlemanly thing, backed out of it, and did not further exacerbate the problem. And Shane Quinn, who transferred in from the B main, rounds out your top 10, Greg.
BJ Tidrick winds up in the 11th position, with Ryan Gormley in 12th. That is your final car on the lead lap. First car 1 lap down is the 8 of Travis Barnes, with Jason Templeton, the B main winner, in 14th. Kyle Franklin, another B main guy, rounds out the top 15. Casey Garber 16th. Christopher Heim, who made his way in on the points provisional, comes home 17th. Chris Morang, Adam Holm, Josh Robinson round out the top 20, Peter, with the 26 Brad Morrison, Travis McKinney, Trace Thompson, and Casey Tillman rounding out the field. And Tillman, remember, he had the issue at the start of the race, so definitely not the showing that Casey Tillman wanted, especially after transferring in from the B main.
Yeah, definitely kind of got involved in that accident on, I think, what it was, lap number 2 with the number 11 machine of Franklin, and Franklin wasn't able to really recover from that as well. He finished in 15th, as you said, but nonetheless, fantastic showing here tonight. Only a couple of cautions, and for such a tight bull ring of a track as like this, it was very, very impressive to see. I mean, we made it all the way to the halfway mark without a single caution. Fantastic driving here by these Northwest Tour drivers. And we're looking forward to the road course races in 2 weeks' time, just after Thanksgiving, where we will do battle at Watkins Glen and, of course, Laguna Seca. Should be very cool to see these super late models wheeling around those two tracks. I think it's 40 laps apiece for those two races. But before we go here on 3Y TV, I want to give a few shout-outs. Of course, I want to thank Joe's Racing Products for sponsoring the Northwest Tour. I want to thank Sargent's Place for jumping on board here tonight to sponsor this individual race. And also want to give a shout-out to SimTV for the camera angles that we have here on 3Y TV, and our friend Thomas Morris from OCR TV for developing our graphics package. But nonetheless, for myself, Peter Short, Greg Rentz, and Carlos Acosta, we want to bid each and every one of you good night, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. See ya!